Hey, my friend. Tonight we are not stumbling into a lavish arena or the grand palaces of ancient Rome. Instead, you will awaken in a fetid back street where the impoverished struggle merely to survive. You will not last the night, believe me. Not if you must dodge chamber pots plummeting from above like bombs. This is not Caesar's Rome, nor marble statues. This is the Rome of filthy streets, crumbling dwellings, and moldy loaves. A world where every sunrise is a battle, and history neglects to record your name. If this unhurried, vivid narrative soothes your mind, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm curious how far these tales travel. Now, dim the lights, turn on the fan for its gentle hum, pull up your blanket, and brace yourself to enter ancient Rome, where a single chamber pot can be either the dawn or the doom of your day. Good morning. You open your eyes in ancient Rome, not in a vine-shaded villa with marble-tiled courtyards and babbling fountains, but in an insula, a ramshackle apartment block reserved for the lowest class. The room you occupy is on the third floor, not perilously high like the fifth, where a collapse once killed an entire family of three, but not low enough to escape the wind slicing through every crack in the sun-baked brick walls. The walls are blotched with mold from dampness, coated in soot and smoke drifting up from the coal stove overhead. There is no window, only a narrow slit letting a pale beam of light pierce through the tattered curtain. The room is cramped like an overstuffed cupboard. There is nothing but a stinking pile of straw serving as a bed, and a threadbare blanket passed through dozens of tenants' hands before you, saturated with the smells of sweat, smoke, and even blood. You sleep beside two others, a man hacking all night, his cough ripping like a lung tear and making you fear he has tuberculosis, yet none can afford a doctor or medicine, and a young potter, taciturn but with eyes hardened from watching his kiln burn everything he owned to ash. The city has already awakened before you. You hear wooden carts rattling over uneven cobblestones, the shrill cries of fishmongers, the briny stench carried on the breeze, children screaming as they scamper about, and the harsh rebukes of mothers too exhausted to be patient. You stretch, your back creaks like a dry branch. Every vertebra aches from sleeping curled to make room for others, and from a month of missed meals. You are only 27, yet one of the oldest in this quarter. For here, anyone who lives past 40 is considered a wonder. You step barefoot onto the floor. It is ice cold and sticky. You cannot tell if it is wine, urine, or something worse. Your sandals were stolen last week when you went to the public baths. You sidestep the overflowing chamber pot, and you begin plotting how to empty it today, to sneak it out into the alley, hoping the guard does not catch you, for a new decree forbids dumping foul water in daylight. Once, an old woman was seized and forced to kneel in the middle of the market, right beside the very chamber pot she had accidentally overturned. You never want that to happen to you. Below on the street, the clamorous trumpet sounded, an alert that the patrol soldiers have begun their rounds, a reminder that the new day has officially begun. You snatch up your threadbare linen tunic, patched together like a map of a fractured city. You slip it over your shoulders, then grab your small cloth pouch containing a bit of stale bread and a handful of salted olives from yesterday. That will be your breakfast, and perhaps your lunch if no one hires you for heavy hauling at the docks or brick pushing at the construction site. You step outside. You weave into the swarm of people like an ant among ants. You fix your gaze ahead. You pick up your pace. You do your best to avoid brushing against the noblemen carried in their litters or the soldiers just released from the guard post. You know the only thing that protects you in Rome is invisibility. How to remain unnoticed. How to avoid being conscripted into labor. How not to be hauled into the throng being flogged for alleged theft. You survive by drawing yourself small, by doing your smallest task exactly right, by hoping tonight you'll still have a roof to return to. At times you dream, a dream of leaving this place for a distant countryside, with fields, with grass, with fresh air. But reality slaps you in the face with the landlady's cries for rent, with the gnawing hunger of an afternoon when no one hires you, with your bunkmate's worsening cough. Here, hope is a luxury. Yet you go on living. You keep putting one foot in front of the other. You have learned which alleys are less crowded, when to pause for water at the well without arguing, how to slip through unwritten rules, how to share a scrap of bread with a begging child in exchange for information, how to smile just enough so others never see you as a threat. Rome is not gentle, but you have learned how to survive within its heart. Each night, when you return to your cramped room, you sit against the wall, sip a bit of watered-down wine, and give thanks that today the ceiling did not collapse, that you still have a scrap of bread, that you are still alive. And amid all this misery, you hold one truth. You understand Rome. You grasp the fragility of every brick that holds it together. You are the part no one sees, yet you are the silent foundation for the splendor of the marble statues above. And tomorrow morning, you begin again. It's time for a refresh. But don't expect a shower or fragrant soap. Those exist only in the tales of the nobility or in the daydreams of those who've never slept beside a damp, moldy chimney. You grab a filthy rag, once used to scrub the kitchen floor or wrap a burn, and scrub it roughly across your face. The coarse friction stings as though your skin wants to peel away. Brushing your teeth? On a good day, you might whittle a small twig to a point, or rub wood ash against your gums. Anything to mask the sour stink of spoiled beans and last night's bone broth. Your breath is a strange cocktail. Musty legumes, raw garlic, the metallic tang of dried blood, and the fear lodged in your throat since childhood. The chamber pot in the corner is overflowing with a slurry so foul you consider flinging it out the window into the alley, shouting, "Cave!" as the rooftop dwellers warn each other. But you don't. You know the mix of human waste, garbage, and old fish oil already stinks this street so badly that even birds avoid it. You push open the creaking door. The wind slams through your threadbare wool tunic, raising the fibers like a porcupine's quills. It's the only garment you own, a stretched collar, sleeves patched with mismatched cloth, cinched at the waist with a thorny cord. You pray it holds, for beneath it lies nothing. No undergarment, no spare trousers, no cushion between you and the scratchy wool. The city's odor hits you like a blow. Human sweat, flies buzzing, smoke from roadside stalls, and the stench of rotting fish in the morning market. A naked child races past, hands smeared with jam or blood. You cannot tell, and you do not care. No one here has time for such questions. An old woman shrieks over her stolen egg basket, while a man farts loudly and laughs like a fool. You weave through the crowd, dodge the butcher's wooden cartwheels, skirt a cow mid-defecation, and glance at crumbs on the ground as if they were gold. You arrive at the communal oven, a cross between a trade post and a battlefield, and trade a bit of barley flour for a loaf of black bread, hard as paving stone, charred at the edges, and dense as clay. That loaf will be your only meal today, unless you manage to earn a bit more by hauling water or carrying goods. While you wait for the baker to dump fresh loaves from the oven, you glance down at the floor. It's slick with something indistinct: fat, urine, or spilled dough. Hands reach out, offering an onion bulb, a few bent coins, or a hollow smile in hopes of a crust. Everyone dresses as you do: patched tunics, uneven sleeves, bare feet or sandals tied with twine, hair matted from fireplace smoke and street dust. Yet they live. They jostle for a scrap, then slip away in silence. You tear off a small piece of bread, chew with difficulty. Your jaw aches as if gnawing on wood. In the street's corner, a drunk lies sprawled, snoring amid a filth-filled puddle. A mother cradles her child, humming a wordless lullaby, her eyes hollow as cave mouths. A crippled man leans on a wooden crutch, cursing the sky as he limps by. You watch quietly, knowing each soul clings to every breath, every crumb, every stray shaft of sunlight filtering through the crumbling walls. Though none dare speak of cleanliness, you remember what fresh air smells like. At least, you think you do. Once, from afar, you saw a noble emerge from the public baths, skin ruddy, garments fragrant with sandalwood. But that belongs to another world. For you only pray not to be driven from the bread queue today, not to slip in cow dung, not to be stopped by a guard demanding papers, though you own no papers, only the vague name someone once shouted from a fourth-floor window. So you press on, feet sinking into the poverty-familiar muck, along streets where hope once stood before being swept away with the ashes. Here, cleanliness isn't a goal, it's a luxury. A bed with a pillow, a garment with matching sleeves. Yet you survive. You continue to walk, and in a fleeting moment, as you tear bread and hand it to a sobbing child crouched against a broken wall, you feel, if only for a second, that you are still human. Breakfast, or ientaculum, is a cruel joke you must endure each day. You trudge to the public bakery, receive a loaf of black bread caked with ash, hard as stone and coated in soot. No butter, no cheese, no dreams of eggs or cold cuts like in the richly painted villas. You dunk the bread in diluted wine mixed with vinegar, a sour brew that puckers your mouth but at least kills the taste of ash. If luck smiles, you may barter for a small bowl of pulse, that thin barley porridge so bland you pray for a drop of cheap olive oil to make it swallowable. Meat? Don't dream of it, unless you're a soldier, a noble, or a brigand. Fruit? Perhaps a withered fig or a bruised olive left over from yesterday's market. Protein comes not from flesh, but from lentils or hope. You lean against a crumbling wall, gnaw your bread like a thief fearing theft, watching passers-by while neighbors argue over land taxes, debts, or even betrayals. Occasionally, you slip into the public latrina, stone benches without partitions, where people sit shoulder to shoulder like audience members at a crude spectacle. Before you flows a murky stream, beneath it a stench of sewage that chokes the air. Instead of toilet paper, you use a vinegar-soaked sponge, passed hand to hand in a grim ritual. You sit between a scarred veteran and a skinny boy staring at a red stain on his leg. You avoid their eyes, mastering the art of brevity. Swift, quiet, then you slip away. Hand washing? Only if there's a nearby fountain and the vendor or guard doesn't shoo you off. You wipe your hands on your tunic, already stained with oil and mud from yesterday, and step back into the street. The city awakens at dawn. The shouts of vegetable sellers, raisin vendors, pottery merchants, the wooden wheels creaking on cobblestones, the quarrels of slaves berated by their masters, the cries of children ripped from their bread. Flies swarm over trays of raw meat, spoiled fish, and the unhealed wounds on beggars' feet. The stench of garum, the stinking fish sauce adored by the elite, hits your nose and nearly makes you vomit. With each new stall you pass, you catch whiffs of burning oil, singed animal hide, garbage, sweat, and excrement. You weave through the crowd, clutching the small cloth pouch hidden beneath your tunic, the only thing holding your few coins and the leather cord your mother once wore. You eat just enough to stay upright, to avoid collapsing in the street. Then you begin to ponder the day's work. Perhaps unloading salt sacks and wine jars at the harbor, or hauling water at the public baths, stacking firewood for the furnace, or scrubbing grease-slick floors. With luck, you'll be hired as a runner, a messenger, or a mason's assistant mixing mortar. You have no fixed trade, no name in the temple registry, just one among the faceless masses behind the stone statues honoring the emperor. Whatever you do, you know hunger stalks you like a beast. It doesn't roar or pounce, but silently gnaws at your gut, weakening you, slowing you down, costing you work. You learn to eat in silence, labor in silence, survive in silence. When evening comes, if you've earned a few coins, you'll return to the bakery to trade for pickled vegetables or cold porridge to fill your belly. If not, you go hungry, curling up on a doorstep or retreating to your rickety attic, where mold and human odor mingle. You close your eyes, hoping for restful sleep, to wake tomorrow and repeat it all, the endless cycle with no respite. And if, as you eat your salted barley porridge, you glimpse a ray of golden sunlight filtering through a cracked wall, you smile, not from joy, but because you are still alive, and that, however fragile, is its own triumph. The streets of Rome are a chaotic storm of sounds, smells, and motion. You must learn to survive by instinct, not hope. Street vendors shout relentlessly, waving hands, offering dangling cuts of meat or baskets of wrinkled, discolored olives. A flutist plays off-key tunes on the corner. Even stray dogs steer clear of the noise. Bearded old philosophers argue endlessly about existence and the cosmos. You guess they haven't a coin left in their robes. You step over slick, greasy cobblestones, donkey dung, urine, and some thick black liquid you dare not name mix into a slimy mud that clings to your bare soles. No sidewalks, no boundaries, just you, the screech of cartwheels, and the risk of a mule cart crushing you if you don't leap in time. Every step is a bargain with fate. You weave through the crowd like a shadow, back hunched, shoulders drawn, hand clutching the cloth bag at your hip, holding a black bread loaf hard as stone, traded this morning for a fistful of barley flour. You don't mind sweat. You fear pickpockets. You pass a small temple. Incense smoke mixes with the stench of burning animal fat, stinging your eyes. You nod slightly to Jupiter's statue, not out of faith, but because you saw a merchant drop dead after spitting on the temple's stones. You cross the fish market. Flies swarm over vats of dried fish, bellies bloated, eyes milky white, reeking like floating corpses. Nearby, a butcher's stall. Slabs of meat hang on iron hooks, flies buzzing like a feast's trumpet. The stall owner grins wide, slapping each cut as if it's a delicacy. You can't afford it. You don't want it. The smell of garum, Rome's fermented fish sauce, hits your nose. So pungent, it makes you gag. A singing beggar passes by, trailing a monkey in a red skirt. Children chase it, laughing loudly. One bumps you, his hand sticky with something red. Maybe jam, maybe blood. You don't turn to check. In Rome, everyone fends for themselves. You keep walking, eyes avoiding the alleys where women in tattered rags moan, cradling infants too weak to cry. Above, the upper floors of insulae, crumbling tenements, bear cracked, leaning walls. Last week, one collapsed, burying 8 people. No one raised a marker. Just fresh bricks filled the gap, and life moved on as if no one cared. You reach the bakery a second time, seeking work, maybe cleaning ovens or sweeping ash. If not, you'll head to the docks, hoping someone needs a crate carried or a cart pushed. Any job will do, as long as it buys a bowl of pulse porridge tonight. You pass a public latrina, cold stone slabs, open to the street. You need to go, but there's a line. When it's your turn, you sit beside a one-armed veteran and a scrawny boy. No one speaks, no one looks. You use the shared sponge, rinse it with vinegar. It's not as vile as the first time. You wash your hands at a nearby fountain. Water's scarce, but better than nothing. You hear cries, "Sweet apples here, still fresh," and "real leather sandals, soft as a lover's tongue." You smirk. Your feet are bare, your sandals stolen last week. But who cares? The guards only protect the rich. Dusk falls. You know you must reach your insula before the heavy wooden door shuts. No one wants to sleep on the streets, where drunks, thieves, and night watchmen are equally dangerous. You pass a group of youths drinking, shouting in thick Campanian accents. You pretend not to hear, quickening your pace. One throws a wine jug. It shatters at your feet. You don't stop, don't react. You've learned. Survivors stay silent. Finally, you climb the creaking wooden stairs to your room, a narrow, moldy space shared with 2 others, one who might die in the night, unnoticed until dawn. You pull out your bread, gnaw small bites. Your teeth ache from calcium lack. You don't feel full. You just know you're not dead. Outside, Rome remains loud, vibrant. But you're just a shadow, a nameless part of this vast empire. You have no statue, no inscription, yet you, and thousands like you, are the foundation propping up its glory. And though no one remembers you, you wake each dawn, step out from your room, cross streets of filth and refuse to live another day. You are a day laborer, a shadow blending into the weary crowds of ancient Rome, toiling under scorching sun, hauling bricks for the emperor's projects, or lugging goods up steep, crumbling insula staircases. Work has no labor laws, no breaks, no protective gear, just orders and exhaustion. Falling from scaffolding doesn't mean a day off. It means a quiet death. Someone else takes your place within the hour. The overseer grips a stick, eyes blazing, ready to strike if you slow down, stumble, or merely cough. Slave or poor freeman, you have no right to refuse, no full wages, only the choice to work or be beaten. Some days, you're sent to the tannery, the worst job, kneeling for hours in vats of urine, soaking donkey hides in diluted waste. The stench seeps into your hair, your skin. No washing can remove it. You sneeze blood. Lips crack from dry air and toxic fumes. Some say this work blinds them. You're not blind yet, but your vision blurs. Each morning, you drag your broken body from rotting straw. Feet touch the filthy floor. Bones creak as you rise. Your pay, a few coins daily, just enough for rent on a dark, coffin-like room on the 3rd floor, if the landlord hasn't raised the price or evicted you for a higher bidder. No work, no food. No one saves you. No gods hear your prayers. The landlord's always ready to replace you with any desperate soul loitering the streets. Rome's sun isn't salvation. It's a burning whip. You labor under it until your head pounds like a hammer's blow. Sweat dries into white salt on your tattered tunic. Your straw sandals tore last week. Feet blistered, caked with dried blood and dust. You keep walking, keep carrying loads. If you don't, you lose your bed. Lunch is your only rest. Panium, a black bread loaf, hard as stone. Chewing feels like grinding gravel, paired with a bit of cheese if someone pities you today. You sit on steps crusted with dried urine, beside a blazing kiln or a searing wall, clutching your frayed cloth bag, fearing theft. The rich pass by on silk litters. Their perfume wafts over you, a reminder you're dust beneath their feet. You chew bread tasting of sand and rat hair, eating while avoiding the gaze of the elite. A child in a litter tosses a fig peel. It hits your head. You don't react. You're used to it. You finish eating, drink a gulp of murky water from a leather pouch, then stand, bowing to a foreman pointing at your next task. Some days, you cart corpses from the slums out of the city. The smell of death and your own stench are nearly the same. Some days, you're called to shovel horse dung or clean sewers, deep black pits of feces and urine. You fell in once, survived, lost your last sandal. You don't complain. You've no breath left to complain. At night, you return, not to a home, but to a dark room. 2 or 3 others sleep there, crammed on the dirt floor, sharing a torn blanket. No privacy, no windows, just darkness and the smell of bodies. Some nights, you lie there, hear a child's cries from upstairs, a woman's groans of pain, the endless cough of the old man next door. Then you pass out from exhaustion, mind still on tomorrow's work. Some nights, you dream of death, and wake relieved it's not real. Sometimes, you wish the scaffolding would collapse today. Sometimes, You believe the gods have forgotten this insula, but you still rise, still work, still live. Not for hope, but for survival's instinct. And if someone sees you on the street, dusty, drained, ragged, and catches a faint spark in your eyes, it's not faith. It's the flicker of a tiny torch, still burning in the dark, a torch of existence, needing no glory. For you are a laborer, an unseen cog in the mighty empire, a faint pulse in Rome's heart, and you still live, still walk, still breathe, in a world with no room for the faint of heart. If you're a woman in ancient Rome, your life isn't written in history books. Your name isn't carved on marble, yet you keep this city moving silently. Each day, you rise before dawn, before wooden carts rumble or vendors' calls echo through the streets. You step barefoot onto icy tiles, shoulders already aching, yet you fetch water from the public well for the household. A stone mill waits in the corner. You grind wheat by hand. Heavy turns burn your arms. That sound, dull, steady, is the morning's heartbeat. After grinding, you knead dough for bread. One hand works, the other soothes a child crying from hunger. You light the fire with scavenged wood. Smoke stings your eyes. If your family's luckier, you cook a thin stew of beans and leftover greens. If not, it's dry bread, dipped in water or paired with garum, that pungent fish sauce so foul some can't swallow it. After breakfast, you take in laundry, sweaty tunics, soiled sheets, nobles' undergarments, all scrubbed clean in the Tiber's frigid waters. You bend over a stone slab, rubbing ash-made soap, joints throbbing but never stopping. Slowness loses clients. At noon, if there's time, you sell greens at the market, wild herbs picked from hills or gleaned from others' gardens. You sit amid shouting vendors, swarming flies, and scorching sun, haggling for every coin. Some days, you earn enough for a small loaf. Others, you get nothing but a weary frown. Some women, in desperation, sell their bodies. In Rome, prostitution's legal but taxed like any trade. They work in alleys, outside taverns, sometimes on insula steps, unprotected, unable to refuse, shielded only by a tattered shawl. It's not a choice. It's the last way to survive. If you're a midwife, your work is witnessing life and death, not in clean rooms, but in darkness, by flickering candlelight, amid moans and the smell of blood. No anesthetics, no doctors, just your hands, passed down knowledge and prayers. Infant deaths are common. Women dying from hemorrhage is normal. You keep a blood-soaked cloth in your pouch. Make a sign of the cross each time you leave, hoping you're not next to collapse. Back home, you start over, mending torn clothes, boiling water, cooking, lulling children to sleep. No private latrine. You use a pot or find a hidden corner behind the house. No kitchen. You share a fire with neighbors, if they allow. A strong gust can extinguish every hearth in the row. A lightning strike can burn an insula to ash. And when it happens, fire, flood, or a collapsed staircase, no one but you saves yourself and your children. No one asks after you. No one records your pain. But if you stop working, Rome halts. No one washes clothes, cooks meals, delivers babies, sells greens, tends fires, raises children, or keeps the city's hearths alive. At night, you're still not done. You hold your child, or just their shirt. They died of diarrhea last month. You sing a lullaby, voice hoarse from exhaustion and tears. You might dream of naming your child on a tombstone, but you can't afford the stone. You sew final stitches on a wind-blocking tunic, hoping tomorrow isn't colder. The sun set long ago, but your work never ends. You collapse on a torn mat, sleeping amid the city's noise. Drunken shouts, barking dogs, wooden carts skidding on stone. No one says thank you. No one speaks your name. But if you vanished, this empire would tremble. Because you, the nameless woman, the weary mother, the laundress, the bread maker, the herb seller, the midwife, you are the silent pillar of this world. Not bronze statues, not victories, but your hands, your eyes, your rasping lullaby, these keep Rome alive, keep Rome. The insula is a lifelong ordeal, a building towering 7 stories, leaning as if it might collapse any moment, built with cheap materials and haste, as if no one's meant to live long within it. Wooden stairs creak, each step a gamble with fate. They could snap at any time. The lower floors house those with money, with influence. You climb to the near roof, where rats rule and bedbugs treat you as their dinner. Your room's barely a box. You share it with your family, sometimes strangers, if rent demands splitting. No plumbing, no private kitchen, just a chamber pot for sanitation and an oil lamp you light, praying it doesn't tip, doesn't spark. In an insula, fire's the deadliest foe. A single spark can turn the whole place to ash. Everything catches like dry straw. Rome's firefighters, the vigils, only come if you've got something to bribe them with. Otherwise, you and all you own are left to fate. Walls are damp, floors rot, moisture rises from cold earth, breeding mold everywhere. Black, mildewed streaks stain clothes, food, even sleep. You hide provisions from rats, seal every crevice, yet the rodents slip through, leaving bite marks and shrill squeaks each night. Bedbugs bite relentlessly, leaving swollen, itching welts on your skin. You wake mid-sleep, scratching, cursing the rotting straw mattress. Noise never stops. Horse carts clatter below, dogs bark, children cry, neighbors bicker over rent, over stolen bread, over who didn't empty their pot on time. You hang wet clothes on a line in the alley, praying no one steals them. It's the only tunic you own. On rainy nights, the roof leaks like a broken bucket. Water soaks your bed, drenching the tattered blanket you clutch. When winds howl, windows rattle. The roof emits eerie groans. You wonder if tonight you'll be buried under rubble. Your children huddle in corners, faces smudged with smoke, dust, tears. Sometimes someone falls dead on the stairs, neck broken, blood pooling. No one surprised. You have no choice. Though you hate this place, you can't leave. In Rome, no work means no shelter. The landlord doesn't care if you live or die, only that you pay on time. Fail, and dozens wait to replace you, cheaper, meeker. In summer, the room's a furnace, air thick, flies swarming yesterday's meal scraps. In winter, icy gusts pierce every crack. You wrap your children in sackcloth, huddle all night for warmth. No kitchen. You light a fire in the room with charcoal, boiling water while praying nothing catches. You saw a neighbor's room burn to nothing. 3 died, all from one stray ember. Since then, you keep sandals by the door, ready to flee. But flee where? Outside's no safer. The insula may be hell, but it's a hell you know. You learn to survive, know which stairs wobble least, where to string a line for clothes without theft, when rats leave their nests to forage. You learn to sleep through noise, eat in darkness, avoid splintered boards that could pierce your feet. You're not alone. Hundreds cram these cramped floors, doorkeepers, dishwashers, herb sellers, day laborers. They own nothing but their hands and a will to endure. You hear the old woman downstairs coughing all night, the drunk man muttering, a child calling for its mother in sleep. The insula isn't a home. It's a shelter amid life's storms. And though you have no statue, no song, no name spoken, you are the silent backbone of this city. At night, while Rome sleeps, you lie awake, listening to faint cracks in the ceiling, thinking, another day survived is another victory. Thirsty, you leave your dark insula room. The empty clay jug swings on your shoulder. Heavy, like the burden of a day not yet begun, but already exhausting. You cross narrow streets strewn with garbage, cow dung, and the shouts of vendors trying to sell their last wilted greens. The smell of garum, rotten fish sauce, mixes with sweat, hearth smoke, and animal carcasses. A stifling blend, like a damp cloth smothering your face. The public fountain appears around the corner. Dozens crowd like ants, each clutching a jug, pot, or rusty bucket. They don't smile, don't speak. They just breathe and wait, eyes tracking every drop from the stone spout. Rome's aqueducts were once the empire's pride, an architectural marvel bringing clean water everywhere, at least to the rich. Your slum gets murky water, greasy, with an odd smell, sometimes streaked red like blood or foaming with metal. Rumors say lead pipes make people sluggish, birth deformed children, or drive them mad. You don't care. Thirst is thirst. Water is life, even if it carries disease. You join the line, dodge a stray dog licking spilled foam on the stones. Avoid those cutting in, fearing a shove might topple your jug, or worse, someone might snatch it, leaving you empty-handed. When your turn comes, you grip the jug under the spout. Water trickles weakly, thin as thread. The dripping sound taunts you. A woman behind coughs hoarsely. Her breath reeks of sickness. You turn away, brace your back, wait for the jug to half fill, then slip out, dodging the grumbling, shoving crowd. On the way back, you pass the public latrine, a row of open stone seats stretching long. No partitions, no doors. The stench of urine is overpowering. Dark stains under the seats mark the hundreds who've come since dawn. A central trough holds water for washing hands, feet, sometimes vegetables. A shared sponge, soaked in vinegar, sits on a wooden stick, the only hygiene tool, also a breeding ground for germs. You hesitate, then keep walking. Today, you don't dare risk it. Farther along is the Tiber River, brown, sluggish, carrying trash, dead rats, and all manner of waste. Children wade in to play, adults wash clothes, some elderly scoop water for bathing. You once drank river water out of desperation, paid with 3 days of fever, diarrhea, shaking so bad you couldn't stand. You remember a man who died of infection, skin red with rashes, mouth foaming. Yet no one bans river water. Without it, they'd have nothing. You pass a small stall, buy a jug of posca, cheap wine mixed with vinegar that laborers drink to kill germs. Its sour bite punches your tongue. You shudder, but at least it quiets your stomach's growls. Some days, water runs dry when pipes break. People have nothing to drink, cook, or bathe with. Riots erupt. They argue, fight over a bucket. Guards arrive late, only to yell and leave. Water is liquid gold, a commodity worth blood. You return to the insula, the creaking stairs half broken. You carry the jug, careful not to shake. One slip, and it's all gone. Lose it, and you might stay up all night waiting for dawn. Back in your room, you set the jug in a corner, dip a cloth in water, wipe your face, not for cleanliness, but to feel you still exist. Your child wheezes in the corner, breaths ragged, eyes cloudy with fever. You give them a sip of water. You don't dare use medicine because you have none. A barley soup needs water. You portion it carefully, some for cooking, some for drinking, some for washing. A day like any other, passing under the threat of thirst and disease. At night, you lie on the floor, back against a cracked wall, listening to drips from the leaking roof, hand resting on the clay jug, like cradling a treasure. Water, which the rich use to water plants, shower, beautify. To you, it's life and death. And tomorrow morning, you'll rise again, step out again, line up again, trapped in an endless cycle. The public bathhouse is the only salvation for a weary body and a wilted soul. After days grappling with Rome's dust, sweat, and clamor. For a few coins, perhaps most of a day's wages from hauling stones or selling greens, you step through the marble doorway into a world apart. Not a pristine painted paradise, but a realm of misty steam, laughter echoing from high vaults, and splashing water ringing like a promise of life. You shed your clothes, hastily stuff them into a wall niche or wooden locker, praying they'll still be there when you leave. Your eyes cling to your belongings as you stride through the palestra, the exercise yard, where bare men jog circles, swing arms, play ball, sweating not just for strength, but to prove they're still alive, still young. You don't join. You glide past, avoid contact, and turn to the caldarium, the hot room, a furnace of heat. Steam clouds the air, the floor slick and damp. No one speaks, only heavy breaths. You sit on a stone bench, sweat pours in seconds, forehead dripping, shoulders sagging. No soap, that's a luxury. You pull a tiny vial of olive oil from your pouch, pour it into your palm, rub it over chest, back, neck. The oil coats the grime. Then you take a strigil, a curved metal scraper, and shave it all away. Sweat, dirt, dead insects, dead skin, fractured hopes. Your skin flushes red, stings, but the sensation feels like shedding the day's weight. The water around you clouds, not from cleanliness, but because everyone does this, scrapes, sweats, sheds street dust onto the marble floor. Bacteria float in the water. Dead skin drifts on the small pool surface. Yet compared to streets thick with dung, rats, and insects, this is paradise. Beneath the stone floor, slaves stoke fires, tend hearths, haul wood, choke on ash, enduring unbearable heat. Sometimes one dies, fainting in the furnace, unnoticed. They toil without name, without voice. So you can sit here, sweat, pretend to be human. You move to the tepidarium, the warm room. Your body cools gradually, then to the frigidarium, the cold room, where you pour water over your head, rinsing the day from your mind. No clean towel. You wipe yourself with your dirty tunic, accepting the damp mustiness as a fleeting reward. But the bathhouse isn't just for cleansing. It's for listening, speaking, existing as part of Rome. People gossip here. Farmers haggle over bean prices. Soldiers recount far-off camps. Prostitutes wait for clients. Physicians probe for new diseases. Officials sigh over the Senate. Disease spreads too, from mouth to ear, skin to skin. Colds, pustules, scabies, sometimes deadly. But no one cares. Without the bathhouse, you'd rot in your own skin. Sometimes you sit beside a senator, one stone step away. A slave sits on your other side. All sweating, all bare, yet boundaries remain. You still kindle your own fire within, while they have others to stoke theirs. You leave the bathhouse as afternoon fades, skin flushed from heat, hair matted but free of dust. You don your rough clothes, still damp. Check your pockets. A coin might be stolen, but at least the tunic remains. You take a deep breath, then cough from dust-laden wind. Rome's streets instantly coat your freshly scrubbed body with sweat, smoke, and shouts. Dust clings to your feet again. Rats scurry under stairs. Tomorrow, it all repeats. The bathhouse doesn't keep you clean forever. But for one fleeting moment, you're not the dishwasher, not the brick-hauling slave, not the woman mending tunics. You're just a body that breathes, relaxes, knows it's alive. And that alone lets you endure another day. Food isn't a meal. It's a silent battle you fight daily. You wake with an empty stomach, guts twisted like old cloth wrung out overnight. You drag yourself to the public bakery, clutching a sack of coarse barley flour, the only asset tradable for a hard black loaf crusted with ash, maybe mouse droppings. You stand packed among the wretched. Some spit, others yell, all clawing to survive on a few paltry coins. Sometimes there's lentil stew from street stalls, murky as mud but warm. On lucky days, you scrounge some pulse, barley porridge bland as tears, drizzled with stale olive oil to ease it down your throat. Meat is a distant dream, appearing only at festivals when boiled animal guts are doled out in scraps to the shoving masses. The stench of garum, rotten fish sauce, rises from vendors' carts. so pungent it brings tears, yet it's the staple spice, the soul of common Roman fare. Fruit is rarely fresh, shriveled figs, wormy apples, grapes dried out from last week. Vegetables fare no better. Wilted lettuce, soil-clumped kale. A sour whiff from market stalls reminds you freshness is for the rich. You push into the market like a soldier to battle, haggling for every coin, dodging flies, guarding against pickpockets. Street food stalls are a lifeline but risky. Crisp honey cakes might bring crippling stomach pain. Mashed beans with flatbread often sit too long, cold, harboring nameless bacteria. You have no kitchen, no oven, not even a knife. You rely on the communal hearth near the insula, where rats and bedbugs are your bedmates, where walls weep moisture and the roof lets in drafts. Each meal is a miracle, born of cunning, luck, and endurance. Anona, state grain rations, is a lifeline, but only for male citizens. A woman? A slave? An orphan without legal parents? You fight alone. No one reaches out. Hunger haunts Rome like a specter. A failed harvest is a death sentence. Starving mobs flood the streets, looting, burning markets, stealing bread. Blood spills. You've seen hundreds scramble for a dropped sack of flour. Screams, fists, the cries of an old woman shoved down, trampled. You've had bread stolen fresh from the bakery, your day's only meal snatched. Once, you ate moldy bread, gray-green fuzz rimming the crust, but you ate. Not eating is death. Your stomach cramped, diarrhea dragged on, yet you still hit the streets, still worked, still stood firm amid the staggering crowd. Sometimes you bite a pebble in your porridge. A tooth cracks, blood flows. You don't complain. You're used to it. Pain is your companion. Hunger knocks each morning. When winter comes, hunger turns crueler, colder, longer. Firewood's costly. Hearths die early. Food chills fast. You wrap yourself in rags, clutch your loaf like treasure. You give half to your child. You sip posca. Vinegar wine sour as death's sweat. It helps digest what shouldn't be eaten. You tell yourself tomorrow will be better. Rome can't let you starve in this mighty city. But Rome doesn't see. Rome builds arenas, raises columns, carves God's statues. None hear your cries. Sometimes you scavenge scraps from nobles' feasts, gnawed bones, spilled porridge, scattered grape slices. You pick them up, wipe them on your sleeve, eat. No one watches, no one stops you. They don't notice. You're invisible. You're a shadow slipping between granite pillars, the wood smoke from communal hearths, the rumble of a hungry gut amid a sated crowd. You exist, not because you're helped, but because you don't stop. Each day, you gnaw hunger like you bite bread's edge, slowly, patiently, desperately, never giving up. At night, you sit by the insula's window, watching the flickering oil lamp, listening to Rome breathe, heavy, indifferent. You rest a hand on your stomach, praying tomorrow brings another meal, be it stale bread, tasteless porridge, or grape skins. You still hope. Surviving is victory. Religion is the breath weaving through Rome's every corner, not dazzling like medals, not boastful like victories, but woven into the very air common folk breathe. Before stepping out from your cramped sixth-floor insula room, where damp mold and darkness are nightly companions, you bow your head, whispering prayers at a small shrine to Laras and Penates, gods guarding hearth and home. Sometimes it's just a corner with stacked stones, smeared with old grease or wilted petals. Yet it's where you pin hopes that the stairs won't collapse today, the master won't rage, and your bread loaf won't be stolen mid-street. You have little to offer, a pinch of salt, a drop of olive oil, or, if yesterday was kind, a rusty coin, all placed carefully on a cracked clay dish so the gods won't take offense. Out on the streets, where greasy smoke rises from a small temple in an alley's corner, where chants blend with vendors' shouts, you always nod respectfully, passing a column etched with Jupiter's name or a weathered statue of Minerva fixed to a wall from ages past. Sometimes you do it fearing the gods' wrath. More often, you fear neighbors noticing you didn't. For everyone knows, skip a bow once, and any calamity will be blamed on you. A cart loses a wheel? Your fault. A neighbor's child burns with fever? Your fault. Everything could be a sign from the gods. You lack the standing to argue. Festivals like Saturnalia, where masters and slaves swap roles, bring rare days of ease, but they're fleeting, a performance. For a few days, you sit at the master's table, eat baked cakes, wear a noble's cap. But when the final day's sun sets, you're the servant again, broom in hand, cleaning the very table you shared. For the poor, sacrifices are a luxury. You can't afford a white goat. You don't dare dream of offering pure wine. All you can do is visit the temple at dawn, before the crowds, place a coin on the altar, praying the gods don't find it insulting. You believe, but your faith stems not from a pure heart, but from survival's instinct. No one taught you theology. No one explained why Mars demands blood or why Vesta accepts only pure flame. You just know that failing the rituals brings disaster, and you'll bear the blame. You grew up in a world steeped in superstition. A bird soaring on your left means delay that deal, even if you've starved 3 days. A stranger sneezes as you're about to leave. Turn back, wash your face, change your tunic. Every act could be an omen. People hang amulets of dog teeth, olive wood, or dried rat dung, fearing the spirits of the dead, lemurs, will haunt you if you skip offerings at Lemuria. Once you forgot. That night, rustling behind the wall kept you awake. You lit a lamp, muttered prayers, scattered black beans on the floor to ward off ghosts. Not because you're certain it works, but because you have no other choice. Rome is religion's grand stage. From towering marble temples to tiny altars by sewer grates, every corner hosts a ritual. Each noble house has its rites, each neighborhood its patron god. Each day names a deity. Religion isn't just faith. It's a system enforcing order, binding commoners with fear and fragile hope. You've heard of the cult of Isis, the strange, mystic Egyptian goddess, with incense-heavy rites and whispers in the dark, but you don't dare go. Isis's followers are watched. You hear more about Christians, secret gatherings, a god needing no blood, only love, and it stirs unease. They're branded traitors, defying Roman gods, a threat to the empire. Some are seized, thrown to lions. You've seen their blood stain the arena's sand. You don't dare say you sympathize, though something in you quivers. But you're a creature of fear, of hunger, of the crumbling insula's shadows, where prayer is habit, not choice. You pray because if you don't, who'll protect you? You beseech not for faith in goodness, but from dread of worse. You gaze at Rome's night sky, where temple smoke mingles with coal dust, and whisper a prayer no one hears. Sometimes surviving needs no reason, just a vague promise to unseen forces, perhaps watching from a mossy stone pillar by the road. Justice in Rome isn't a balanced scale. It's a hollow wooden gavel pounding to the rhythm of wealth and status. If you're a slave, so-called justice is nothing but a pre-locked cage. You can be accused over a missing household item. Your only defense is screams echoing in a torture chamber, where whips, iron pincers, and red-hot flames are dressed up as interrogation. Guilty or not, no one cares. Truth is a luxury the lower classes can't afford. A master's mere suspicion gets you bound, stripped, hoisted. Each lash tears at the last shred of humanity in your body. No one advocates for you. No public defender exists like today. If you're a free citizen, thinking Roman citizenship shields you under the law, you'll soon wake from that dream in a courtroom. The cold stone chambers reek of sweat, ground ink, and the clink of covert coins, a chorus of injustice. The room swarms with toga-clad men, lawyers, officials, fixers. They speak eloquently, but not for you. They work for connections, titles, or to repay political favors, not for you. The one bowing before a wooden podium, hands trembling with dread. You must prove your innocence, while your accuser, rich and chummy with the judge, smirks behind a curtain. Even if you speak truth, without bribes or a noble's backing, your words are wind passing bronze statues, unheard, unremembered. Rome's punishments are crafted to remind the masses that law isn't for all. It's a stage for public entertainment. Whipped in the marketplace, exiled to windswept frontiers, or crucified on a hill. These are rewards for the lower classes' missteps, sometimes just for stealing a loaf or misspeaking about a noble. For slaves, execution means crucifixion. Brutal, slow, humiliating. Victims don't close their eyes but scream in despair. Roman citizens are luckier. If condemned to death, they're granted beheading. Quick, clean, less painful. The empire's mercy for those officially registered. But that mercy still drips blood. If you're in debt and can't pay, don't dream of legal protection. You'll be auctioned like goods in the slave market, hands chained, a debt placard hung on your chest. Your buyer takes you like a mule. You become a laborer in endless servitude, no escape, unless someone, improbably, redeems you, which almost never happens. Women in Rome are little more than men's property. They can't speak in court, can't hold property without a male guardian. If caught in adultery, whether from love, coercion, or mere rumor, a husband can kill them at home, no trial needed. That's his honor's right. The law nods approvingly. Men who stray, they're scolded, if at all. The crowd doesn't stay silent. They cheer. Trials are spectacle. When someone's sentenced to death, the masses flock like it's a festival. Vendors sell bread, dried fish, honeyed wine outside the arena gates. Children perch on parents' shoulders for a clear view of the gore. You might be convicted for theft. Find yourself bound, shoved into the arena, where starving tigers or gladiators await. Rome is a theater, justice its play, but not everyone gets a starring role. You bow your head passing patrol guards, always carrying a hidden coin pouch for bribes if arrested unjustly, to atone for uncommitted wrongs, to survive. You speak softly, avoid disputes, shun debt. You live in fear, not of crime, but of being born low. Justice isn't blind, as statues claim. In Rome, it sees clearly, sees only money and power. If you're wealthy, you're innocent before trial. If you're poor, you're guilty the moment your name is called. You learn this young. When a rich child topples your mother's fruit basket, and no one dares speak, but your neighbor, caught nibbling a wilted fig, is bound, beaten half to death. You grow up with such lessons, etched into your heart that fairness isn't law's aim. It's an excuse to maintain order for those already atop the pyramid. You no longer believe in justice, yet you pray each night, not for vindication, but to be forgotten. In Rome, they don't need to kill you to make you vanish, just make you silent. Disease isn't rare. It's a routine part of life in Rome's streets, a shadow slinking through every alley, every damp room, every shallow breath of the poor. You step out of your insula at dawn. Within a few paces, your feet tread on rotting garbage mixed with human waste, sewage spilling from latrines into uncleansed alleys. No one sweeps it. No one has the strength to care. So flies swarm, carrying invisible seeds of sickness. Water is life's essence, but it's rarely clean. Public fountains teem with people. Clay jugs clink, crowds jostle, naked children shriek, stray dogs lap at the trough's edge. Aqueduct pipes sometimes fail. The water turns murky, heavy with a metallic tang, especially lead, silently gnawing your body bit by bit. Newborns too weak to cry after 3 days. Mothers know they're beyond saving. Death is so familiar. No one gasps when an infant's corpse, wrapped in old cloth, is quietly left at a market corner, awaiting someone to carry it away. Life expectancy hovers at 25 to 30. By then, you've lost most teeth, your back curves from labor, and you carry countless unnamed ailments. A simple cut on your hand. Days later, it swells red, festers with pus. Then fever hits, delirium follows. No painkillers, no antibiotics, just a wet rag and prayers. A mild afternoon fever becomes midnight shivers. If you don't wake the next morning, it's no surprise. Physicians, if they exist, serve the elite, those near the Forum, in sprawling villas with private baths, clean food, dry hearths. You, at society's bottom, rely on wilted herbs, bark-boiled water, or folk remedies like ash poultices or diluted wine. If you're injured, you stop working. That means no rent money, no bread. Rest means hunger. Hunger means weakness. Weakness invites disease, a vicious cycle with no escape. The public bathhouse, where the poor feel clean, breeds germs. In the caldarium's rising steam, millions of microbes float. You sit shoulder to shoulder, share benches, plunge into cloudy pools, scrape dirt from your skin with a strigil, leaving bacteria for the next. Skin rashes, eye infections, scabies, even plague, all can start in this supposed haven. Once, you heard of a strange sickness from Ostia's port, coughing blood, high fever, eyes blazing red. Weeks later, your neighbor dropped dead, no farewell. You don't ask the disease's name. Here, sickness needs no label, only the silence of survivors. A child's nighttime cough is an ill omen. You've seen it too often. A weary child, soft whimpers, then silence by dawn. No complaints, just a sigh and a cloth over the face. Grief becomes habit. Surviving children are stunted, bellies swollen with worms, eyes dull, fingers bony. Those who die are quickly forgotten, as if they never were. In the worst times, like when the Cyprian plague swept through, you felt like you lived in a walking graveyard. People collapsed on streets, skin green as leaves, mouths foaming white. Guards kept their distance. Corpses piled together, wrapped in blankets, hastily burned on wasteland. Homes stood empty. Bakeries stopped baking. Markets closed. Rome seemed to hold its breath. You wear a charm. Touch your chest when someone sneezes. You pour wine for the gods. Whisper Lares and Penates' names before leaving your door. You don't believe. You fear. Superstition is the frail rope tying you to hope. Even when you have nothing, you wear amulets, cat bones, clipped fingernails of the dead. You pray to Asclepius, to foreign Isis, anyone who might hear your pleas. But you know well, gods don't save those without coin. So you learn to live with disease's shadow. You smell rotting garbage without flinching. You see blood oozing from sores without panic. You hear sawing coughs from the next bed without asking. You learn silence, forgetting, stepping over corpses without pausing. You know, surviving isn't about strength, it's about luck. Each morning, you wake, breathe lightly, grateful no blood taints your urine, no fever hums in your bones, no flies buzz near a wound's mouth. You press on, carry your clay jug, eat moldy bread, work under scorching sun, return through reeking crowds, just to live another day. At night, when noise fades, when death's scent lingers in the breeze, you lie down, hand on your child's stomach, breathing softly. You know well, morning may not come. In Rome, every night is a gamble with death, and you've never dared bet big. Death doesn't come to you as a gentle end. It's a blunt, blood-rusted blade of reality. It gives no warning, no mercy, no convenient timing. A slight fever, a scratch on your leg, a missed meal. Death quietly knocks. You don't age as people dream, sitting by a hearth, telling tales to grandchildren. You age through layers of street dust, wrinkles carved by hunger and fear. Surviving past 30 is extraordinary. Rarer still if you're a slave. A work accident, a plague, or a prolonged cold rain can bury you in ancient Rome's damp earth. But not everyone gets a grave. If you're a slave, your body is tossed into puticuli, nameless mass pits, dusted with lime to curb the stench, mingled with hundreds' bones, no farewell, no incense. If you're lucky, a free citizen, you might join a collegium, a burial club, pooling coins for a jar of ashes and a small marker. That's all. A meager inscription, fading with years, perhaps wedged in a market or by a muddy road. The afterlife doesn't welcome all equally. People believe souls without proper burial wander forever, becoming lemurs, resentful shades tapping at the living's doors by night, wailing for rites never performed. In a city where religion is law, death isn't just departure, it's a lingering threat. The rich are entombed in mausoleums, with statues, eulogies, even annual offerings. They're remembered, etched into history. You, a nameless pit, a passing glance, a sigh. If you're branded a criminal, rightly or wrongly, death is even grimmer. Crucified in public, you hang as a warning to the crowd. Your body isn't cut down quickly. It rots, reeks, becomes a feast for crows and stray dogs. Flesh tears away, a reminder that Rome is a place of law, but that law isn't always just. Sometimes, justice is a game for the powerful. You're merely a pawn. Death doesn't just take your body, it erases your name. Damnatio memoriae, erasure from history, is the worst penalty for grave crimes. Your name is chiseled off tombstones, your statue smashed, your family forbidden to speak of you. You're wiped from the community's memory, as if you never existed. In a culture prizing reputation like Rome's, that's more terrifying than death. Death isn't just an end, it's obliteration, a deliberate, cold forgetting. Yet you live, knowing tomorrow may not come, that each breath is a bargain with fate. You still rise each morning, fetch water, scrub dishes, hum softly to lull your child to sleep. You live not for glory, not for eternity. You live for today, for tonight, for the moment you still feel warmth in your hands. You may never have a tombstone, a name in history, a statue in the Forum, but you're indispensable to Rome, the city built not of marble, but of sweat, blood, and lives like yours. You know you'll be forgotten, yet you persist. In Rome's shadows, where brutality and grandeur intertwine like a coin's two faces, your quiet resilience keeps this empire running. While emperors vie for fame, you kneel, boiling water. You're the one who truly grasps life's meaning, not living to be remembered, but living because you still breathe. And that, amid Rome's harshness, is the smallest yet greatest victory you can claim. You live each day as if every second is a negotiation with fate. Before the sun even rises, you grope through the dark, dodging overflowing chamber pots in the insula's hallway, where the stench of urine, sweat, and garbage melds into the air. Each step is a gamble, The rotting wooden floor could collapse any moment. Breakfast? No such thing. You pull out a stale bread scrap from yesterday, maybe moldy, but it's all you have to fill your gut. It crumbles, gritty with sand, flecked with rat hair. You chew, because a hungry stomach doesn't wait for pride. Then you leave the insula, stepping into Rome's foul streets, cobblestones slick with dung, sewage, and nameless filth. You don't just walk. You dodge mule carts, sidestep stray dogs, weave through crowds, heading to the work site or market, where bricks heavy as fate must be hauled, stacked, pushed, moved. Your calloused hands know the bite of rope on skin, the pain shooting from shoulder to spine. You work not for a better life, just to survive. No work, no food, death. And Rome doesn't pause to mourn the fallen. When you catch a break, you lean against a cold wall, pull out another dry bread chunk, panium, and, if lucky, a bit of cheap cheese from yesterday. Beside you, another worker, shoulder bleeding, grins. His son just learned to speak. For a moment, you recall your own child, once like that. The insula trembles with strong winds. The roof creaks, stairs tilt, and fire, ever wakeful enemy, waits to swallow the building whole. Yet you boil water with a leaking oil lamp, warm yourself by the communal hearth. Praying today isn't the day everything burns to ash. Disease lurks in every corner. Insect bites, cloudy water, spoiled food. A cough could herald death. But you still sing, tell stories to your child by flickering lamplight, voice cracking from exhaustion, eyes brimming with love. When a neighbor starves, you split your only bread in half. When a child points at a dead bird in the gutter and laughs, you laugh too, not because death is funny, but because life still smiles amid decay. Rome is an empire, but Rome wouldn't exist without you. You're not in the temples, not seated in the forum, not written into history. Yet you sweep the streets judges tread, bake the bread nobles feast on, build the sewers keeping the plaza dry. You're the one delivering babies in darkness, scrubbing blood from the arena, laying the foundation stones of temples. The rich revel in high halls, toasting with Greek wine, while you sweat, flinching at shouts, unsure if it's fire or a whip. But you don't stop. You, invisible to the world, are an indispensable link. Each step through the market, the streets, the rotting stairs, is a victory. Each breath you draw, thick with dust, smoke, and death's stench, is a challenge overcome. You know your name won't grace history. No marble statue, no inscribed tablet, no tales told of you. But you don't need fame. Your bones are the empire's paving stones, the bedrock of grand monuments, the echo of children's laughter amid ruins. You are Rome, not the Rome glittering with gold, but the real Rome, alive, rank, fierce, unbreakable. At night, you collapse on a damp sack of straw. Distant ox carts rumble, rats skitter across beams. You close your eyes, not because you believe tomorrow will be kind, but because you hope it will come. And that hope is what Rome can't extinguish in you. You're no emperor, no general, no philosopher. You're just you, a common soul in mighty Rome. Yet because of you, Rome is Rome. In every fleeting moment of your existence, you live like a nameless warrior, immortal in your quiet resilience. Lying on a brittle, moldy layer of old straw, you listen to wooden cartwheels grinding against the night road's stones. The slow clop of mule hooves echoes through empty streets, mingling with distant dog barks and the endless bickering of neighbors, over water, perhaps, or a missing tunic. You scratch your scalp, fingernails catching lice clinging to your hair, a nuisance you're too weary to care about or feel shame for. Amid the stench of spoiled cabbage, sweat, charcoal smoke, and rat droppings in a cramped room barely wide enough to stretch your legs, you're still breathing, and that, right now, is your greatest victory. Today, you didn't burn in a fire sparked from the floor below. You weren't stabbed in the chaotic market scrum. You weren't robbed of your food like the widower on the third floor. You haven't spiked a fever, haven't trembled from gut worms or 3-day diarrhea. And you haven't been summoned for execution over a debt your old master misrecorded. Today, you survived. Tomorrow? Who knows? In Rome, the future isn't something you plan. It's something you quietly pray for as you light an oil lamp, hoping some god, any god, takes pity. Millions like you, nameless in books, unpainted on stone walls, voiceless in the Senate. Keep Rome alive. Not the generals hailed after battles or philosophers orating in the plaza, but the cracked-footed farmers growing wheat, the slaves hauling water from dawn to dusk, the mother scraping by, feeding 3 children with watery porridge and lullabies, the potter with scraped hands at the kiln, the servant scrubbing public baths, the barefoot child running market errands on an empty stomach. They rise before dawn, sleep when roosters fall silent, work until hands swell, shoulders tear, then do it again tomorrow. No one builds statues for them. No one praises them in epics. But you're here, and you're listening. You may not know their names, but you feel the ache in their backs, the chill in their feet, the hunger clawing their guts, and the fragile flame of hope blazing in their eyes, no matter how fiercely life's winds blow. You see them stoop in crowds, wiping sweat, sharing their last bread with a passing child. You see them stand rooted by stone walls, hearing their husband died at the frontier, not crying, just clenching fists, brushing tears, pressing on. You see the wife cradling her child's body, too poor to bury, the son carrying his sick mother, collapsed on the street, the old quietly retreating to a corner to burden others less. They have no choice in where they're born, where they live, or how they die. But they live, through will, through silence, with a strength Rome never acknowledges. They're the ones who keep Rome standing through wars, floods, plagues, and famine. Without them, there's no Rome. No domes rise, no arenas are cleaned, no temple fires burn. Yet they're unrecorded. When scholars later turn history's pages, they read of emperors, generals, priests, not the dung sweeper, the sandal mender, the water seller at the crossroads. But you know, you're part of them, whether in Rome or anywhere, anytime. You're hearing the untold stories of the unsung. They don't need your pity. They're not frail. They live, love, dream, struggle, and fight as fiercely as any warrior. Each day they step out is a battle. No weapons, no trumpets, just calloused hands and a vague faith that one more step is a win. And you, by knowing they existed, by sparing a moment to remember them, you've brought them back to life. No statue bears their name, but you've just raised a monument in your own memory, a monument of empathy, of understanding, of respect for the nameless, who are the true foundation of an empire that once made the world bow. Rome isn't what's built of stone. It's what keeps stone from falling. Rome isn't the gold on togas. It's the hands that wash them. And if you've ever wondered why Rome was great, think of them. They're the reason Rome stood, though history forgot. But you haven't. Now, you're in the present. You open your eyes in a quiet room. Soft bedding cradles you. Gentle light from the window dances on a crack-free ceiling. You step barefoot onto a clean floor. No fear of rusty metal, debris, or scurrying roaches. You turn the faucet. Cool, clear water flows steadily. No color, no odor, no worry it might kill you or your child. You brush your teeth with minty paste, rinse and spit into a gleaming porcelain sink. No wooden chamber pot in the corner, no lingering stench of last night's urine. No rats, no late-night arguments seeping through thin walls. No frantic search for a doctor over a fever. No prayers to survive a minor scratch. No need to hang charms by the door to ward off restless spirits of kin too poor to bury. Each breath you take, free of ash dust, damp wood smoke, or moldy wall reek, is a luxury millions before you never dared imagine. They, the poor of ancient Rome, lived lives where clean water, a full meal, or a night's sleep unbitten by bed bugs was a distant dream. They hauled stones for temples, built roads, scrubbed public bathhouse floors, baked hard barley bread, carried water from the Tiber, and died before their hair grayed, all to keep Rome alive. Their hands bore calluses, their backs hunched before 30, their toes cracked, teeth fell from calcium lack and a lifetime of watery porridge. They lived nameless. No tombstones, no statues, no lines in history. Yet without them, there'd be no Rome. And without Rome, no foundation for this world, your world, to stand. Every step you take, every roof over your head, every faucet, every pill, every soft white bread roll at breakfast, is the fruit of thousands of years of toil, blood, tears, and the fragile hope of those unseen people. People who begged for the right to exist, were whipped for slow hands, killed rats to save their food, slept in filth-filled cellars to stay warm through winter. You don't haul pots to communal ovens. Don't scan the sky for rain that brings deadly diarrhea. You don't fear falling from a sixth-floor insula's rotting boards. You don't pray to Mercury for another day's life. You can flick off a light. No need to shield a candle to prevent a blaze across 3 wooden floors. You drink water without vinegar to kill germs. Eat meat without waiting for festivals. Use a bathroom without dodging strangers' stares beside you. Your life, simple, calm, seemingly ordinary, is a miracle, the harvest of countless generations who endured for you. Those people don't crave your pity. They don't need your tears. They need you to remember, not with weeping, but with quiet gratitude. Each time you turn the faucet, recall someone died for want of a single drop. Each time you lie in a clean bed, hearing the hum of air conditioning, know someone's back broke hauling stones for another's comfort. Each time you fold clothes scented with fabric softener, think of the woman whose hands bled scrubbing in a polluted river stung by ash soap and sewage. You don't need to become a historian. Just pause for a second, switch off the light, gaze out the window, and think of them. The poor, slaves, laborers, mothers, nameless soldiers who gave their lives so you don't dodge chamber pots, smell rotting corpses, or die from a toothache. This isn't just history. It's a reminder, a mirror, a silent shadow of the past urging you to grasp your present's worth. Your world didn't start with you. It began with them, with the broken back of a brick hauler, the tears of a mother losing her child to diarrhea, the sigh of a wife awaiting her husband's death in battle, the faint lullaby sung in a windowless room. They're unremembered, but never gone. They're here, in your glass of water, your bathroom's glow, your electrical outlet, the whir of your washing machine. And if one day life feels slow, if you doubt the meaning of small things, think of them, people with no choices, who bore the weight to build the world you have. Then you'll know you're living your ancestors' dream, a dream they didn't dare dream big. But you live it. Your duty is to remember, not to lament, but to be grateful, not to grieve, but to understand that the smallest things you have today were once someone's entire life, and so every breath you take is a miracle. You open your eyes in the darkness of a room without electric light. Only faint moonlight seeps through the slanted roof's cracks, casting shadows on the cold, stone-hard dirt floor. Night winds slip through gaps in brick and wood, carrying the Tiber's damp breath and the scent of ash from extinguished hearths. You feel cold, not just from the weather, but a chill seeping from within your bones, the cold of a hungry night, of a day spent exhausted, of a world promising nothing for tomorrow. A cold, seemingly trivial, can be death's prelude in Rome. Each cough is a warning, each shiver a reminder that your immune system has little to lean on. You're hungry, not from dieting or a skipped meal, but a gnawing hunger from a day of watery porridge and dry bread. No meat, no oil, no hope for a better breakfast. Only the night's lonely sounds, hurried footsteps passing by, a dog's howl from a deep alley, rats scratching at the walls. You're afraid of a guard's knock if debts go unpaid, afraid of fire from the floor below swallowing this rickety room, afraid of being roused for a corpse in the back alley, afraid of a tomorrow you may not see. You don't survive in any grand sense. You've won no victories today, but you're alive. You've dragged yourself through another sun's cycle, past collisions, hunger, disease's threat, scornful glances, and the indifference of this 1,000-year-old city. For a poor Roman, that's as close to survival as it gets. When the screen goes dark, Rome doesn't vanish. It retreats into shadows, making way for the imagined crackle of a hearth in your mind. Not a real hearth, you can't afford wood, but a memory, a vision, a place where you let yourself feel warmth, if only in thought. You close your eyes, not because you're safe, but because you're tired. Not because worries are gone, but because worrying changes nothing, and you deserve it. Not because you're exceptional or strong, but simply because you're human. Because each day you've endured, strived to live, feared yet kept moving. The poor in Rome don't sleep soundly. Their rest is torn by coughs, cold, dreams of dead kin, cries of pain from the next room. They have no beds, only straw on dirt. No blankets, only a tattered cloak. No sweet dreams, only daytime anxieties in new forms. But you, reliving their memory through this story, sleep in peace. Cherish that. Cherish each moment of rest without fearing for your life. Cherish each gentle exhale, unblocked by inflamed lungs. Cherish sleep unbroken by shouts, house fires, or sudden fevers. If this story brings you calm, despite its paradox of pain, hit like, as a way to say, I'm still here. Subscribe to journey together through nameless memories, forgotten sleeps, untold lives. And if you're willing, share where you're watching from and what time it is where you live. Because though we're separated by space and time, we've all walked through Rome, not the Rome of emperors, arenas, or triumphs, but the Rome of the nameless, the Rome of rough hands, the Rome of small dreams, the Rome of those who lived unrecorded, yet left footprints in the city's soul. Thank you for joining. And now, good night. Not an empty phrase, but a wish for you, who lived a day in Rome, who shivered, starved, toiled, feared, and kept going. Sleep, you've earned it. Let Rome fade into your dreams.